But dry powder is a term that is used in alternative investments. And we first bring it to the market. I remember lots of discussion when, we were saying, don't put the word dry powder in the report because people are going to misinterpret. And we have to educate the market. Mm-hmm. The market needs to know what the lingo means. Now, everybody and their grandmother using the word dry powder. So, I am saying that we see ourselves as pioneers and leading the charge, and that's the reason why, we organize this seminar. That's the reason why, Burris is leading Carrier at the moment. That's the reason why we are co-founders of Carrier, along with many other people in the industry. And that's the reason why we are going to come out with new initiatives and new products so that people can really understand what this industry is about, because it's not going away. The private credit baby, born already, and it just going to grow from strength to strength. It will soon turn into teenager and then grow into adulthood. And that's the way how we see it, and that's what we think our role is.
The final question, you just mentioned new products. A question here says, are there any plans to create products that allow retail investors to participate in the alternative investment space?
Other than buying the shares, yes, once the regulation allows for it, absolutely yes.
Oh, I have one last one. Which other Caribbean territory does SCI plan to expand to fuera de Puerto Rico, outside of Puerto Rico?
Oh, just pick all of the Caribbean territories. That's in the future. That's what's gonna happen. Accrescent in Puerto Rico actually had operations in many other Caribbean territories. So when the time is right and ripe, we will, take up the mantle again and expand when we see fit. But, that's the only way the business is going to grow, by spreading its footprint across the region.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please. Breaking boundaries with private credit. Thank you so very much, Jason Morris.
Again, click on one. Yeah, that's good. And guess. That's you, okay, yeah? Click on next. started. Thank you. Okay.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to those watching online. My name is Gregory Samuels, the Senior Vice President and Head of Investment Banking at SYGNUS Group. And my job is to welcome you all to SYGNUS Credit Investment 5th Annual General Meeting. Can you imagine? 5 years has passed. I want to pay a special thank you to our shareholders who have placed the confidence in us to be good stewards. And we have had a very good 5 years, and we look forward to another 5 years, not only good, but better. I just want to recognize the persons sitting at the, well, there's no table, but on at the podium. Beresford Gray, who is our CEO and president of the group. There is Linval, our chairman. I always mix up Linval last name because there's a famous footballer for Jamaica, Linval Rudy Dixon. And I always tend to say Rudy Dixon. And of course, Horace. There is Jason, our Chief Investment Officer, and of course, David Cummins, our Head of Real Estate for the SYGNUS Group. You know, today is really a good day. It's a beautiful day. If I was in church, I would say, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. You know, you have to kind of wing it, because when you're Head of Legal and Compliance, last minute tell you to be a moderator, you have to find things that can work for the occasion, right? You know, it is said that Winston Churchill once had to make a presentation, and he had no idea what the topic was. And when he went on stage, he forgot his speech. And so, in true Winston Churchill style, he started off by saying, "It gives me and my cabinet great pleasure." And of course, his aide there could rush him off stage because there was some emergency. But there's a huge uproar in the audience. And persons was wondering, what's happening? And, you know, Sir Winston turned and said, "Why are they behaving like that?" And them said, "Well, Sir Prime Minister, the topic that you're supposed to speak on was sex. In particular, it's about rumors circulating about you and your cabinet visiting a certain red light district in London." Delayed. Anyway, so without further ado, I'd like to ask our chairman to come and to take this morning's proceeding to order. Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Linval Freeman, not the footballer, and I'm the chairman of the board of SYGNUS Credit Investment. And may I say that this is a serious part of the business, right? I'm advised by the company secretary that in accordance with the company's articles of association, a quorum is present by proxy and in person. The meeting is therefore properly constituted, and the AGM is now called to order. I take this opportunity to welcome you to the 5th AGM of the shareholders of SCI. And, you know, the previous speaker spoke about 5 years. And 5 years is when you really get to maturity in anything. In fact, there's a saying that when you get married, you know, if the marriage lasts after 5 years and after, or up to 5 years, then it will last forever. So I must say that SYGNUS has lasted up to 5 years, and we expect it's going to be here forever. SCI is an international business company incorporated under the International Business Companies Act, IBC, 1999 of St. Lucia, and its registered office is at 20 McCourt Street, Castries, St. Lucia. Each year, we look forward to this opportunity to meet with you and to share SCI's accomplishments during the year. It is always a pleasure to meet with you all in person. However, COVID-19 is still around. And so this has forever changed the way in which we do business. And as a result, today's meeting is a hybrid meeting where some persons are online and some persons are here present. The meeting is officially convened in St. Lucia, and this location is in Kingston, Jamaica Pegasus, is a satellite location from which, as you are aware, the AGM is being conducted. Shareholders will be able to view the proceedings of the AGM, vote on resolutions, and submit their comments and questions by logging on the e-platform that was circulated. The instruction to access the e-platform, as I said, was included in an advisory released by the Jamaica Stock Exchange, or you may go on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website and the various social media platforms to see it. We know that many persons continue to be impacted by the pandemic, and so we are very delighted that so many of you were able to join us today, virtually and in person. Registration for access to the AGM will remain open, and persons will be free to register and be admitted at any time during the meeting. As it relates to the voting process, once we get the business section of the AGM going and the voting on the resolution, I will read each resolution and table them for adoption. The notice of today's meeting and the form of proxies were dispatched to all shareholders on record in accordance with the company's Articles of Association. If there is no objection, I propose that the notice of the meeting be taken as read. And the notice of the meeting, I think, is included in your package. I would now like to introduce you to the directors of SCI. So in addition to myself, who is the chairman, there are some other directors that I'd like to make mention of. Present with us here today is Mr. Horace Masado. Horace. Other directors have joined us virtually, and those joining us virtually are Ike Johnson, Hope Fisher, Peter Thompson, Damian Chin, Ian Williams, and of course our company secretary, which is based in St. Lucia, Mr. Rory McManara, is also virtually participating. Miss Valerie Rapier, a representative from the company secretary, is also sitting with Mr. Rory. The directors who are joining us virtually are able to fully participate in the meeting and to answer any questions that may pose to them. Also in attendance are members of the SYGNUS executive team, SYGNUS being the investment manager for SCI, SYGNUS Capital being the investment manager for SCI. And so sitting with us today is Mr. Beresford Gray, CEO of SYGNUS Capital, who I think needs no introduction. Similarly, Mr. Jason Morris, Chief Investment Officer, SYGNUS Capital. Others present include Serlin Hudson, Chief Legal and Compliance Officer, Gregory Samuels, who opened the proceedings, Senior Vice President and Head of Investment Banking, David Cummins, sitting over there, Vice President and Head of Real Estate and Project Finance, Elizabeth James, sitting in the audience there, Head of Wealth, Monique Anthony, not see Monique, but she's a Chief Financial Officer, Yashi Hall, Vice President and Head of Risk, and Mr. Adrian Foreman, Legal Counsel. Several team members of SYGNUS are also present, but we'll stop at that listing for the time being. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our auditors, KPMG, represented by Mrs. Karen Raghubar Singh. Hopefully I call your name correctly, Karen, who's sitting in front here. Representatives from our registrar and transfer agent, the Jamaica Central Securities Depository, and I think I met two of the young ladies at the front when I just came in, are present with us. That is Mrs. Chantel Scarlett Dennis and Miss Ashley Warmington. Several members of the press and non-shareholders are also present with us, and I see the press here in full force. I will chair today's meeting. Throughout the meeting, I will refer to SYGNUS Credit Investment, the company, or SCI. You have been handed a copy of the agenda which sets forth today's proceedings. Apologies. I've been advised by the Corporate Secretary that there are no apologies for absence. Minutes. The directors have confirmed that the minutes of the AGM held on 26 January 2022 are a true and correct record of that meeting. Copies of the minutes are available for viewing on the company's website. Many of you already know what the purpose of an AGM is, but just to reiterate, the purpose of this AGM essentially is to seek the approval of the shareholders for the respective resolution as outlined in the notice and also recorded on the agenda. The first item of ordinary business is the adoption of the audited financial statements for the year ended 30 June 2022. The second item is the recommendation of the final dividends for the financial year ended 30 June 2022. The third item is the election of officers, election of directors, because you know the directors retire by rotation. The fourth item is directors' remuneration, and the fifth item of business is the appointment of auditors and the setting of the auditor's remuneration. The resolutions were duly set out in the notice to the AGM and duly signed by the Corporate Secretary. The Company Secretary has advised that proxies have been lodged by 37 shareholders holding approximately 205 million shares and representing 34.67% of the ordinary issued share capital of the company. Of the total proxies lodged, 20 shareholders holding approximately 73 million shares and representing 13% of the ordinary issued share capital of the company have appointed me, the chairman, as the proxy holder. For the remaining proxies, the proxy must attend the meeting in person to represent the member. Those proxies will be deemed valid once the registrar has confirmed the attendance of the appointed proxy holder. Casting of votes. Shareholders in physical attendance will vote by show of hands. I will read the resolution, and the shareholders in attendance will be asked to vote on each resolution via a show of hands. Shareholders who are for the resolution will raise their hands, followed by shareholders who are against the resolution. The scrutineers present will take account of the number of hands raised for or against the resolution, and this total will be added to the shareholders who voted virtually via proxy. If a voter abstains, their vote will not be included in the count. Shareholders attending virtually will vote using the e-platform. During each resolution, you should wait for your option to pop up on the screen or click Vote Now on your screen. Once the resolution is on the screen, select For or Against option, then select Submit Vote at the bottom of the screen. You'll be asked to confirm your vote. Select Yes to confirm your vote, or select No if you want to change your vote. Mr. Andrew Foreman will act as scrutineer and will confirm the vote by the show of hands, as well as the total votes for each resolution. Thereafter, voting will close and I will announce the results. Shareholders and attendees, your microphones will be muted for the duration of the meeting. So now the formal part of the AGM begins, the real business part of the meeting. Now we will conduct the formal part of the business as set forth in the agenda. In order to conduct an orderly meeting and give all eligible shareholders an opportunity to participate, we will follow the procedures in the program. During the conduct of the formal business, questions and comments from the floor should pertain to the specific matter under consideration. I will now present the formal part of the business meeting. We will take the resolution as outlined in the notice. In accordance with Article 190 of the Company's amended and restated Articles of Association, the company is obliged to lay before the meeting the audited financial statements together with the reports of the directors and auditors, which are contained in the company's annual report for the year ended 30 June 2022, which were all circulated. Before inviting the discussions of the report, we'll have a brief presentation by our Chief Investment Officer for SYGNUS Capital, Mr. Jason Morris, who will take us through the various highlights of the year for 2022. We're going to look at some of the numbers and the performance ratios, and look at the outlook for the company for the ensuing years to come. Jason, are you ready for us? If you're ready.
I'm always ready.
Yes, okay. Yeah. If you're ready, I'll hand over to you to just take us briefly through the financial highlights, okay?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. Let me try and be as brief as possible. But before I start, if you're an Arsenal fan, we're going to win the league this year. All right. First slide is just to kind of highlight how we got here. We started on July 1st, 2017 in terms of operations with $16 million US. And that first $16 million US that we raised, was the hardest capital we have ever raised in our lives collectively. And so we have to really appreciate the shareholders who believed in an idea that was on a piece of paper from a few guys who really don't have much claim to fame, so to speak. Following that, we had an IPO in May 2018, followed by the actual listing in June 2018, and at that time, the SCI became the largest publicly listed private credit investment company in the entire Caribbean region. Very shortly after, in October, SCI paid its first dividend of about, memory serves me, about $437,000 US. It's a lot of money to be paying right after just being listed. And then if you move forward in terms of some of the other major things that would have done, I would say if we move forward to an APO that we did in the middle of COVID, we actually launched that additional public offering in December of 2020. Again, that was a very difficult capital raise, but it was very successful. It was bigger than the actual IPO. And then, September 2021, as we promised shareholders, we got our first credit rating, which was investment grade on the Jamaican scale, JM-BBB, with a stable outlook from Caribbean rating agency CARICRIS. Then we closed, another bond offer and paid, which is to date the largest quarterly dividend of $1.55 million US for a company that at that time was just 4+ years old. So that was also a great achievement. And then we achieved $100 million assets under management in December 2021, followed by one of the biggest transactions we have done certainly since we started SCI, which is to close the 93.66% acquisition of Accrescent Financial Corporation in Puerto Rico, and that was done in February 2022. And that is going to change the trajectory of SCI over the medium term. And in September of this year, September of 2022, would have received a rating upgrade from CARICRIS. So we are now JM BBB Plus with a stable outlook, and on the Caribbean scale, we are Cari BBB. Next slide that I want to look at is just along the same journey of the 5 years to say that as a leader and pioneer in Caribbean private credit, what are the things that we have actually done? What's SCI's claim to fame over this 5 years? The first thing is that we have deployed over $220 million US in capital across the region, and this capital is not capital that has gone into bonds, right? This is capital that has gone directly into the economies of various Caribbean territories, gone directly into companies to solve problems, gone directly to provide jobs for persons. And 120 million US of that was directly injected into the Jamaican economy itself. Indirectly, it's about 140 to 150 million US. We're talking about a company that started with a piece of paper. In terms of scale, we are now 137 million in terms of total assets on the balance sheet, but this does not include the 150 million assets under administration by Accrescent. I'm just keeping this according to the audited financial statements. Customized financing, we have financed more than 45 different companies since inception. And then we have deepened access, because one of the objectives is to ensure that we deepen access to the alternative investment channel for companies who ordinarily wouldn't have that access. And so we have deployed capital across 12 different industries and 9 different territories since we started business. And finally, we spoke about the acquisition already, so that was a big thing. Just a quick update to give you some perspective on the acquisition, right? So if you look on this chart that we have, it's showing you SYGNUS Accredited Investments Limited, kind of what I would call Caribbean private credit platform. So the acquisition was for 23.3 million, all told, 93.66% stake, done in February 2022. And if you look at what we now have, SCI had 100 million plus portfolio of private credit investments in about 30 different investments. And we went and acquired the majority shareholdings in a company that had roughly 70 million plus in assets on the balance, in private credit investments on the balance sheet, and off the balance sheet another 70 plus million in assets under administration to give it the 150 in total, right? So in total, you're talking about SCI having around 170 million in private credit investment assets, directly and indirectly. And why have we done this? Well, a number of reasons. We know we were in the English and Dutch-speaking Caribbean. We now get access to the Spanish-speaking Caribbean via a company that is in a $100 billion economy. And this is very important because if you add up the GDP of all the economies that SCI is currently invested in, it doesn't reach 50 million US, let alone 50 billion US, let alone 100 billion. So you can see scale is very important. Of course, Accrescent, because it's in Puerto Rico, it will also give us, when we are ready for that, the opportunity to expand into other Spanish-speaking territories. And that is something that we discuss in future years, I'm sure, when the business is scaling rapidly. We have a fundamentally stronger set of portfolio company investments because Puerto Rico, even though it was, under restructuring for quite a while and in default for quite a while, at the end of the day, its parent is the big bad US economy. And therefore, based on the fact that they have now come out of their economic challenges and trying to stand on their own 2 feet, fundamentally the companies that we have exposure to are going to be stronger than those that are in the Caribbean, generally speaking. Third thing, obviously we get access to industries that we can't get access to in the English and Dutch Caribbean region, such as pharmaceutical, technology, etc., etc. Those industries are not very prevalent in our neck of the woods. And finally, we're getting access to a team that is vastly experienced. This company has been in operations for 19 plus years, and the team is extremely experienced. And so by bringing both skill sets, what we have in Puerto Rico and the manager of SYGNUS Capital Limited here in Jamaica and in St. Lucia, then there's tremendous benefit that SCI would get from that. Now, very quickly through the actual financial performance summary, which you all have in a very pretty 5-year annual report. For the financial year, we would have generated core revenues of 8.25 million, which is up 27.1%. That's a record, by the way, and a record net investment income of 5.27 million, up 40.1%. Net profit, 3.82 million. That was down 24% because we had to take the full charge off on one investment asset in the Cayman Islands, which was an unfortunate situation. But at some point we were going to have an occurrence like this. We went 4 years and 3 quarters without any charge-offs. But we'll bounce back and recover. Despite that charge-off, we still were able to do $3.82 million US. I'm not sure how many companies listed on the exchange actually made $3.82 million US in net profit in real money in 2022. So that's still a phenomenal job, given the fact that we faced an existential crisis in 2020 and 2021 with COVID-19 pandemic. So earnings per share 65 cents versus $1.11 cent, 0.65 cents versus 1.11 cent the previous year. And of course, in terms of giving monies back to shareholders, we would have paid out a record 3.1 million US, up 77.9%. During the year. And this, I'm not going to spend much time on this. This is just giving you and showing you the trajectory of SCI's growth in terms of total investment income, which is core revenues, and net investment income, which is core earnings, right? And you can see that the company doesn't have a growth problem, really. This next chart is just showing you the trajectory of dividends. So I want to distinguish between dividends paid during the financial year, which was actually 3.1 million, but that was up 77.9%, and the dividends paid on the financial results, which is different because on the financial results mean the financial results have to actually have the financial results to pay the dividend on those results. So the dividend that was paid on October 14th of 1.55 million, when you look at the dividend paid on the financial results, because the dividend didn't really change, that's also 3.1 million. But relative to the previous year, it would only have been up 28.2% versus what was paid in the financial year. So you can see that the trajectory is pretty decent for a 5-year-old company. Next slide is just, we pride ourselves on setting and benchmarking against global best practice. And the 2 charts that you're looking at, the one on the left, is what you call operating efficiency. And what it basically says is for every dollar of revenue that we generate, how much of it is going out in expenses. So we want to always maintain that below 40%. That's our threshold, and that's kind of a international best practice for any financial firm. If you're below 40%, you're doing exceptionally well. Because if you go and look at other firms, generally speaking, the ratio is going to be substantially higher than that. So we came in below that ratio during the year. Of course, the previous year would have had a one-off issue. Well, not an issue. We made supernormal record profit, and that record profit triggered a performance fee to the investment manager, which is what would have caused overall operating expenses to be outside of the 40%. On the other side, we want to also look at how much of operating expenses, we need to maintain that within a particular threshold as a percentage of your assets under management, because you don't also want to ensure that you're not having these large, huge assets and it's going out in expenses. And so the threshold, again, benchmark against international best practice for this type of company is 2.85% that we have set ourselves, and as you can see, we came in substantially below that. The balance sheet, shareholders' equity, 67.46 million. As I said before, we started with 16 million pure equity, so we have grown that to different, the APO, and also through generating profit and retained earnings. And total assets on the balance sheet, 137 million, which includes the carrying value of the Puerto Rico investment, which was 24.16 million as at the financial year end. And then the balance sheet KPIs, pretty much we have set some metrics that we want to manage towards, again, following best practice. And debt to total assets, we are saying we don't want that to be greater than 0.5. And we have remained below that threshold since inception. Asset coverage ratio, which is pretty much just taking your short-term liabilities and comparing that to assets that you have on your balance sheet to see how quickly or how if we were to end up in a problem where we needed to sell the assets on the balance sheet to convert them to cash to repay debt, how difficult would that be? And the international best practice for private credit firms is to ensure that they're always above 101.5 times or 150%. And as you can see, we are substantially above that. Debt to equity, again, following international best practice, our debt cap is 2 times, which means that we have a very, very lowly leveraged firm. Of course, management in the interim set different metrics in terms of managing towards 1.25. It can change to 1.5. It can go down to 1, depending on the economic environment which we are in. But our cap is 2 times, right? And as you can see, at the end of the financial year, we were at 0.96. And this is very important because I know that, we just came out of COVID. We're going into kind of a slowdown environment, high inflation, high interest rates. So what this allows SCI to do is to basically be able to navigate different economic environment because we're not going to be stressed from a balance sheet perspective. And then, all the assets on the balance sheet, they are financial assets, which means that we can convert them to cash. So very quickly, Chair, looking at the Q1 results, which were posted after the financial year end, same story, record Q1 total investment income, record net investment income, record net profit for the quarter, 1.63 million, earnings per share 28 cents, dividend, diluted earnings per share 27 cents, and of course I spoke about the dividend that we would have paid. And that's just a representation of the chart on a Q1 quarterly basis, which is giving you the same trajectory as we had for the audited period since inception. So I won't spend too much time there. And then this is the same chart showing you the efficiency and the expense ratios again. And you can see we are within the thresholds that we have set for ourselves. And then the balance sheet KPIs. The only difference here is that we start to kind of show, okay, interest rates are rising rapidly, kind of what's our spread. So if we are borrowing money at a particular rate and we are investing that money, we need to maintain a particular spread, and the threshold that we have roughly is about 500 basis points, and we were at about 850 basis points at the end of the quarter. In terms of activity for the quarter, the balance sheet continues to grow in terms of the portfolio itself. Portfolio companies 33, net investment commitment, meaning capital being deployed, 6.4 million. So basically we are doing like 6 million a quarter. The yield on the portfolio 14% versus what it was last year, 12.9. The tenor is a very short tenor. So basically we are able to solve problems for our companies, but we are not investing for 5 and 10 and 15 and 20 years, right? We are investing for a very short period of time, and we're extracting the value because we are providing a service that is required, because a bank can't do what we do, and we don't do what banks do. And of course, we had adequate liquidity on the balance sheet. And our pipeline is over 100 million, which means that we need a lot of capital, right? Don't pay too much attention to these charts. It's only there to show you. The chart on the left is showing you what's the allocation per industry without Puerto Rico, without the Puerto Rico acquisition. And what's on the right is showing you how the diversification increased substantially with Puerto Rico. So basically we had 12 industries without the Puerto Rico, and then with Puerto Rico we have 21 industries, right? That's all you really need to focus on. Just showing you that we have registered real benefit in terms of diversification by doing the acquisition. And then the other one is just showing you the country diversification, which paints a similar picture, although there are a number of countries such as Dominican Republic, Panama, etc., which are actually legacy assets that are being closed out. But as you can imagine, as I said before, the opportunity to scale into different markets, obviously, is going to be a lot easier having done this acquisition. More unknown on that. And then finally, final two slides. Every year I put up this slide because I want people to, sometimes people may forget, right? We have a three-pillar approach to our strategy, which is proactive risk management, put on the quality assets on the balance sheet in the first place, and most of our assets are what we call sponsored portfolio company investment, meaning there's a big backer behind it, a private equity company, or it might be shareholders with very deep pockets, or they are part of a big group of companies. Second thing is partnership approach, which is absolutely critical. It's the lifeblood of private credit firms. It's a partnership, right? It's not a black box that you do as I say or else. It's really a partnership, and we have actually built multiple partnerships, especially during COVID, and we have reaped the benefits from those partnerships because more than 50% of our business is repeat customers, clients, or referrals from those clients giving us opportunities, right? And that's how we have been able to go through COVID and still be standing very, very strong. And then finally, differentiated solutions. At the end of the day, what SCI is doing is providing to entrepreneurs and middle market companies across the Caribbean region that we have the expertise to solve a problem. You have a big problem, we solve it. So earlier late in last year, we solved a problem for a client who was doing an acquisition. They needed the financing within, I think, 10 days. Think about financing a big acquisition that you need to complete the legal documentation, you need to solve for multiple challenges, etc. And that was done in 10 days. So we offer speed of execution, one, and ability to structure complex transactions, very, very complex, that it would take a regular financing institution maybe 3 months to solve the problem and get the money out the door. And of course, scale and certainty, because we have flexible debt capital. Our money resides in a different habitat from your regular bank financing and your regular bonds and so forth and so on. So that's very important to always remember that about SCI. And so final slide, which I'm sure is the one that everybody want to observe and try and discuss later. Basically, we have 3 pillars to the strategy, right? Obviously, the first one is acquisition, which we completed phase 1 of the integration of Accrescent in the SCI in July 2022 by transferring the fixed assets and the employees out of the company into a different firm. And phase 2 integration is advancing. We have kind of reorganized the team and kind of refocus and optimize how we are focusing and driving the growth of the business. And so we have started the process whereby we want to scale the business. And that's an ongoing process, and that's working well so far. In terms of SCI's growth path, we're really and truly focusing on a go-forward basis, because we spent the first 5 years setting the base, and now we are focusing on, okay, we really need to start ramp up shareholder value substantially more than we have done in the past. So the first one is in terms of core revenues, to grow that by more than 50% from where we ended the last financial year to be in excess of 12.5 million. So this is not to say that the target is 12.5 million US. That's the minimum threshold. So if we get to 15, 18, yeah, that's good. But the target is not 12 million, it's to be a minimum of. So with the strategies, within 3 years we need to do these things, which is similar to, I think, 2.5 years ago when we said within 12 to 24 months we needed to do some things. Second one is ROE. So in steady state, which means when we get to the end of the 3-year period, or prior to the end of the 3-year period on a go-forward basis, we need to generate in an ROE of greater than 10%. Again, 10% isn't the target. We're saying the minimum should be 10%. The third thing is EPS, to grow the earnings per share by at least 75% from where we ended the last financial year. And dividend yield, we have to use a proxy for how to compute dividend yield, and there are many different ways to do it, but we are using the base as the APO share price that we would have. The last equity raise we did was an APO. I think that APO share price was 14 cents to the general public. So we are saying in steady state we need to get to a threshold where the minimum dividend yield is 5% based off that price. And if we look at what private credit companies in the US do, similar ilk, right? They are generating a yield above that. And so we are striving to benchmark ourselves to what the US private credit companies are doing. It's going to be very challenging, but that's the challenge we set ourselves because that's the only way to enhance shareholder value. Capital raising. So we are currently negotiating some credit facilities with some international partners. Our target is to get 100 million USD within 12 months. And our hope, of course, is to get like a first draw of that long before that 12-month period, of course. We are also going to do additional capital raise, which are going to be quasi-debt in nature. I know that I think last AGM person were asking, when are you going to actually provide us an opportunity to participate in investment opportunities from SCI? So these will start coming to the fore in sizable chunks on a go-forward basis because I said before, we have a very large pipeline to finance, which is why we think we are set our target for ourselves to originate 300 million US within 3 years, which is a huge origination target because currently, obviously, the balance sheet is like close to $150 million. So we are setting ourselves up. But at the end of the day, the market, especially given how the economic challenges are coming, private credit firms are made for when capital becomes scarce. That's what we were made to do, to provide that access when that access is being choked off from the traditional challenge. And of course, finally, to achieve all of this, we need to generate new revenue streams. So by tapping into these new financing facilities, we'll be able to generate new revenue streams to complement net interest income. Because by and large, right now, SCI just has net interest income as it's pretty much only way it make money, right? Finally, we have been talking about share buyback and how we want to structure that. And subject to approval, which we will get that in due time from the board. The structure that we're going to utilize is effectively to have a share buyback program. So this is not just going to say we're going to buy back the shares and that's it. It's a program. And the program is going to last for a period of 3 years. And we have targets per year of how much we want to buy back, right? And that's going to be anywhere between $1 and $3 million based on final approval, which is a lot of money. That's 150 million J to 450 million, depending on where we land. Right? Of course, we'll set quarterly targets as how much we want to buy back in each quarter, which is going to be obviously something that we hold to our chest. And in terms of when this will be launched, I think the timeline Council will advise me we need to do it before the last day of the financial year.
So we will look to push to do that as soon as possible in one of these quarters upcoming. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Jason. Whenever I hear Jason speak, it really gives me a lot of confidence. Jason always, give that presentation that makes us comfortable and believe that he has his finger on the pulse of everything. I think, Jason, I could wake you up any time in the night and ask you a question and you could answer it. We don't have to think too much about it, right? Yeah, but very impressive presentation, and that goes along with a very impressive performance level by the company as well. I mean, when you look at it, and when you look at the stats from 2018 to now, in terms of profitability, we're almost 4 times, and in terms of revenue, we are almost 6 times, right? Impressive dividend payment performance of over $3 million US. And impressive dividend yield of over 5%. So those are some impressive numbers. And of course, the acquisition in Puerto Rico is really a strategic one that will give the company a kind of a footprint, in the U.S. territory. And so we're creating some waves in terms of our performance levels and where we want to take SCI over the next couple of years. Our external auditor, Ms. Karen, you're here. And of course, when in the earlier days as an auditor, I used to have to come to the podium and read the audit report, which is like 6 pages long. But we're going to take the audit report as read, and so we're not going to necessarily ask you to come to the podium and read the audit report. The audit report is included in the annual report that was circulated, and so we're going to take the audit report as read. So the next segment is that we're going to take question and answers on the financial statements. And know, yes.
I would like you to first of all read it. Why don't you read it? I read it.
Yeah, it's taken as read. So no, I mean, so what it is that it's not mandatory that the audit report is read, as far as we are concerned. Right? If you have any difficulty with what is presented, maybe we consult with the auditors afterwards. Okay? All right. So we have question and answers for 15 minutes. This section, yes. Right. So yes. So my fellow directors is noting that the audit report is unqualified. There are some key items which I think the auditor would have referenced in the report. And so if you have any issues on those key items that are referenced, we'll take them under the question and answer segment. Okay? All right. So Gregory, you'll moderate this section. So I'm going to turn over to Gregory so he can moderate the sections if there are any questions being asked.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to make special welcome to Mr. James Connor, the CEO of SYGNUS Puerto Rico, who has joined us online. This is his first AGM, and, welcome, James. At this point in time, the floor is now open to questions, both in the audience as well as those who are watching online. Can you state your name? And
Livingston Young.
Sure.
You hear me, Mr. Chair? Livingston Young. Based upon Mr. Your name again, Mr.
Jason Morris.
Yeah, Mr. Morris. When you go to primary school in the country, my godmother always says, try to be a leader, not a follower. Based upon the US thing, when you say, watch them or like when I follow them, or them do, I think you have to take a page of yourself, a Jamaican. You must be a leader, not a follower. You understand? And the next one, and the thing that they say, on a make, how much million does it make again?
5.1 million.
Yeah, out of the profit that we want to make.
Well, 3.8 million, apologies. 3.8.
Yeah, out of that 3.8 million, thing there, what's the thing there? When tax come out, give me a little explanation of that.
So SCI doesn't really pay that much tax. It's a very small amount. I think, let me tell you. Let me just look at the financial statements and tell you very quickly. So SCI would have paid $96,373 in tax. And the 3.8 million is net. Yes, so the profit is net profit.
Net profit.
Yes, after tax.
After tax. All right. You can turn to page 23 for me, please. Page 23.
Okay, I'm there.
All right. You see your revenue as 11.12 million.
11.12 million.
Yeah, 11.12 million. Thanks, thanks very much.
Yeah.
You see, you have change in impairment, allowance, financial assets, changes in impairment and allowance, financial assets, FYE. I don't know what I mean by
financial year end.
Yeah, June 2022 was as increase of US in 382 million.
3.82 million.
Yeah, 3.82 million. Yeah. You can give an explanation it from, please.
Yeah. So excellent observation. So during financial year end 2022, we took a charge off or a write off of an investment that we made in the Cayman Islands.
Yeah,
yeah. So that's what it represents.
Okay. All right. You can turn to page. Page 95. Note 25. D and I. The group and the company. Stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3.
Page 95.
Yeah, page 95, note 25, D, V, and I. You there?
Almost there.
The balance at July 1, 2021, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, of 211,600,000, what, 20,000? Can we look at explanation?
Yes, so page 95, yes. Balance at July 1, 2021.
Yeah, amounted.
211,620.
Yeah, the year end. You can give a look at explanation on the year end, please.
Okay, so effectively what this is doing, right?
Yeah.
Based on accounting standards, when you do a debt investment, you have to, quote unquote, forecast how much money you think, if things go bad, you would lose in the investment. So you have to basically kind of project that. Now, if at the end, nothing happens, then whatever, quote unquote, provision you made, it get reversed at the back end. So all this is saying is that based on the different assets that we have, so majority of our assets were in stage 1. We had in stage 2, I think 1 asset, and in stage 3, 3 assets, right? So effectively, what the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 is doing is that we have to determine from the day that we put the asset on the balance sheet, okay, what kind of asset is this? Now, let's say 12 months later after I have actually made the investment, you have to reassess again that same asset. So suppose the company was doing phenomenally well when you put the asset on the balance sheet, and then you have, some economic challenge coming, like COVID come up, and then the company's profit fall off. Then what would happen is that you would have to say the risk to your investment has increased, and you have to then quantify that risk. Meaning you have to say how much. You can't just say just increase. You have to say, okay, when I put it on, the risk of me losing money was $100. Then 1 year later, because COVID come or the company have a strike or whatever happened, you're going to then reassess and say, based on where the company is today, has the risk increased? And if the risk has increased, yes, okay. How much money do you now think you have to, you will lose? And if in this instance, you expect to lose $200, and in the first instance, you expect to lose $100, the difference between your now $200 that you expect to lose and the $100 that you initially put down is what you put in this figure. And so you continue doing that every every year until you either pay back your money, and then those, expectation of losses get removed from your income statement.
Okay, sorry. Just to get in some, so you can have some questions after. I just want to take some questions online, and if you want, you can have a discussion with us after the main proceedings to go into details with the explanation. Okay. Okay. Question online.
Okay. All right. This question is from Stephen Dawkins. Is there a plan for the convertible preference shares the company issued in July 2022 expected to be converted to ordinary shares and further dilute current shareholders?
So, good question. So, when we get to that stage, we can answer that question as to whether we're going to convert or not, because obviously, if we are doing our job properly and the company is delivering tremendous performance, then the question is going to be whether or not the owners, because they have the right to convert, is not our right? They have an option to convert. And so those bondholders may decide to convert at that time if they so choose. If they, in their perspective, think that they can take back their cash and go and do better, have better investment opportunities for that cash, then obviously they won't convert. So it's not at our option, it's at the option of the bondholders. So that will all depend on the trajectory of the company when maturity date arrives. I hope I've answered the question.
Okay. There is another question from Javon Russell. At the current revenue stream of SYGNUS and potential future revenues, will SYGNUS be able to maintain its record dividend payouts without significantly affecting the productivity of the business?
Okay, so let me answer the question this way, right? So the dividends that SCI is paying doesn't really affect the productivity of SCI, right? Because we're paying out $3 million and the company effectively has, you could say the company has $170 million in asset as a private credit portfolio if you include Puerto Rico, which even though Puerto Rico is not consolidated all the way up, the net benefit from the Puerto Rico investment is flowing through to SCI. So the dividend payment doesn't really affect productivity of SCI. The question is whether or not, based on the dividend policy, will SCI be able to consistently generate enough profit to pay the same dividends it's paying now or to pay higher? And the answer to that question is, it depends, right? We are in an environment where interest rates are spiking up, and so you could have short-term misalignment. But ultimately, we have laid out a strategy that says that we want the dividend yield based on the APO share price of 14 US cents to be a minimum of 5% in steady state. So that's something that we have said and targeted. We have also said that we want to grow revenues by 50%. And we also say we want to grow earnings per share by a minimum of 75%. So all of that, if those targets are met, then obviously the question that you're asking would be answered. But it's what I'm trying to say, it may not be that you have a straight line, right? Because, for example, when COVID came, SCI still maintained its dividend, but it reduced the dividend for a period, simply because we were in a COVID environment, and then the dividend not only increased, it increased to a much higher rate than what it was before, because pre-COVID the dividend was like 900 and something thousand, 800,000. We are in a post-COVID period, per quarter, and we're in a post-COVID period, and the dividend per quarter is semi-annually, is 1.55 million US, which is a substantial increase relative to where it was pre-COVID. So these gyrations can happen, right? No one knows what the future holds, but we have given a commitment that we want the yield to be above 4% and 14 cents. And if you do that calculation, the actual dollar value of the dividends and the dividend per share has to be higher than where it is currently.
So we'll take one more online and then one in the audience.
Thanks, Jason. All right, this next question is from Shaquem Cameron. In regards to the share buyback, is there a price range that the company is targeting?
Good question, and obviously I'm not going to answer that question. Because then, you would have front running. And we are interested in deploying the capital to actually enhance shareholder value. We don't just want to go and someone buy 100 shares and send the stock price up to $25 in J, and then we go and buy it with our capital at $25. We're not going to do that, right? So the answer to that is no.
Question in the audience. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I am Lanzel Bloomfield, shareholder. I have one comment and one question. Mr. Chair, while the company has done exceedingly well to achieve growth during 2022, during the challenges of COVID-19, as a shareholder, when you send the notices for the meeting, I would like to receive the hard copy so it gives us as shareholder sufficient time to go through the financial statement and to go through the balance sheet. The registry, Mr. Chairman, is quite efficient. I received the notices of the meeting, which is this, more than a month now, and I could not do anything with it because I have no hard copy of the report. So please let us have the hard copy so that we can go through the proceedings of the company. You have done well, still despite COVID-19, and you are to be congratulated. Question. Page 75, note 12. In 2021, you paid no professional fees. However, in 2022, you paid some $194,000 US, which amounts to over 30 plus million Jamaican dollars. Why have you paid out such a large sum of money, and can you give us some clarification on this expenditure?
Okay, so thanks for the observation, and thanks for your question as well. So I'll answer the question this way, right? In the first instance, the professional fees is not material. It's a very small percentage of any metric that you want to measure it by. Net profit, operating revenue, balance sheet, etc. But to answer your question as to why we paid out that amount of money, the company has to meet multiple obligations, particularly those related to, the auditing of the firm. And so from time to time, there may be new standards that require us to make changes to some of the models that we utilize, for example. And to do that, while we can do it in-house, we have to get an independent third party, hire an independent third party to do those things to satisfy the auditor's checklist. So in this instance, we had PricewaterhouseCoopers and other professionals that we had to hire to do different things in terms of our expected credit loss model needed to be revamped and updated because, for example, you had COVID, nobody knew, how to model for COVID in an expected credit loss model because it never happened before. We didn't have a lockdown of the entire world before. And so to satisfy audit rule changes, we have to hire a professional to do that. We were going through the process of doing an acquisition, and therefore There are legal fees that we have to pay lawyers and other consultants who are the advisors working on the acquisition. So due to these multiple different factors, that's the reason why professional fees would have increased. Which, as I said, again, it seems like a lot of money, yes, but on any scale that you measure it on, it's not material. And the key thing to watch, and that's the reason why we presented to you the operating efficiency ratio as well as the management expense ratio, which takes all the operating expenses and then measure them relative to the revenues that we are generating and measure them relative to the total assets on the balance sheet. And we set ourselves a target and report that to you every quarter in the quarterly report and at AGM and in the annual report. So that's how I would answer the question. The reasons why it increased is because of these, moving targets around different regulatory and our audit rule changes, etc., that we have to pay independent third parties professional fees to undertake those services. I hope I've answered the question, because I don't want to navigate around you, I want to be very direct.
I understand all of that, Mr. Chair. But based upon what you have said, it seems like that figure is set to grow next year. but
very astute,
with that, I hope you have some plans to grow the dividends too. But you haven't said much on you haven't said anything on the annual reports.
Oh.
We need to receive the annual reports. Like I said, you have an efficient registry. But we can't do anything with this. When you send us this, and we sit down with it, I received this over a month, and I have nothing to look through.
I'll take that question. It's an excellent observation. What I'll tell you, though, is we didn't seek the permission of...
Sorry, Serlin, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sorry, I'm Serlin Hudson. I work as part of the corporate secretarial team. Excellent observation, and I understand your concern. What we'll do before we leave here, I'll make sure I take your email address as well as your postal address, so we'll mail one specifically to you. You will realize that we actually tried to take the printed copies here. And one of the things I'll tell you, in 2020, we actually had a resolution where the shareholders, you actually gave us permission to send you documents electronically. When we do what we do, we're actually saving you some money. It cost us almost $3 million to print the printed book. We printed 50 this year, and that was at 700,000 Jamaican dollars. I'm very sure that you'd rather get that 700,000 in dividends. So what we're actually seeking to do is to make sure that we have more efficient methods of getting the documents to you. What we try to do is we ensure that it's available on the SYGNUS website. It's actually available on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website, and we also ensure that we email a copy to you. But we do understand that there are shareholders like you who want a hard copy. So what we seek to do is we get your email, we get your postal address, and we always ensure that we mail one to you. So before you leave here today, please ensure that we get your address. Also, in the shareholder advisory that we sent out to the stock exchange, we did indicate that if there's a shareholder who requires a hard copy, they were to email. And the address that we had there was sci@sygnusgroup.com. So for the record, if there is any shareholder requiring a hard copy of the annual report, we do have them in publication. We just ask that you send an email. All right? And we're saving the trees, we're saving the environment. SYGNUS is an ESG firm, and that's what we're seeking to do. So please work with us. All right? Thank you so much.
Well said, Serlin, well said. Any more questions, either in the audience or online? Online? No, okay. So we'll just take one more, and then we'll close this segment, and then, yeah.
Yeah, all right. You can turn to page 70, note 6. This is other receivables. Other receivables, note 70. Now, page 17, note 6. The group and the company. You there, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I'm
He said
there. Yes, I'm there.
He said changes in client receivables is as the following. The group 2022 to 2021. 1 to 30 days, 91 to 180 days, 181 to 360 days, over 360 days. In 2022 and 2021, can you give an explanation on this, please, as 452 million, 100
No, 452,000.
Yeah, 450,000, yeah. Look at 2022, the minus sign between 20 million, 477,000. Give an explanation, please.
Okay, so you're talking about what? So you have 1 to 30 days, 91 to 80 days. Which one of them you want me to clarify?
One at 181 to 360 days.
Right, so in 2021, it says 20,000, and in 2022, it says 0. So that means that 2021 figure...
What the minus sign signal?
No, it's not minus sign, it's 0.
0, oh. Look at 2020-21, of 141 million, 200,000.
141,000.
Yeah, 141,000. Give it the breakdown. Just give an explanation for me, please.
So basically what this is doing, right? It's tracking how long it takes someone who, for example, need to pay us, right? So in 2021, it's saying that we had 141,267 that was due over a 1 to 30 day period. And then in 2022, you have 452,116. But what would have happened is that the balance sheet in 2021 is pretty much half of what it was in 2022. So the balance sheet would have expanded, and then you have timing differences between when different payments are being made.
Chairman, you know, when as a businessman, you agree you give them time, but some people just reluctant to pay. See, they come like a vice script, you know. You have to say, boy, I have a shareholder to give them a thing, you know. So they need to come up with the money, because some people, they make the money, and they say, boy, I'm not give SYGNUS it, you know. You need to call them up, man, and say, well, go on, yeah, we need some money, you know. Because they come like a vice script, them tight, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah?
We agree, but note that this is between 1 to 30 days, right?
Yeah, we know. Some of them PS.
Yeah, so I'm saying 1 to 30 days is normal business practice.
Yeah.
If it was over 360 days, 180 to 360 days, or 90 to 181 days, then you should be concerned. So I'm saying, you know, 1 to 30 days is normal standard business practice. If it start to get too long, then what we do is charge them additional fees, because they charge them additional fees for the delay in the payment. Because you're right? If somebody have our money and they don't give it to us in a timely manner, then obviously we are losing, you know, revenues. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So thank you for your question. And if you have more questions, you can ask Jason over drinks or lunch after the meeting. At this time, I ask Linval Freeman, our chairman, to take the podium, where he will take us through the adoption of resolutions and voting on them. Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Gregory. One thing I say, Mr. Young, I like your enthusiasm. Very nice, very nice. You know, it just shows that you're watching the numbers, right? And I hope you continue to invest in SYGNUS. Good company. Okay, all right. All right, so we're going to move to the resolutions now. We're going to take them one by one and ask for the vote as we go along. Just a reminder that the shareholders can use the e-platform to vote, as was outlined earlier, and those present, just by way of show of hands. And Mr. Andrew Foreman will oversee that process, take the number of votes, and we tally them at the end of the voting period. So the first resolution that is being proposed for adoption is that the audited financial statements for the year ended 30 June 22 and the reports of the directors and auditors that were circulated with the notice convening meeting be hereby adopted. So that's the first resolution. And so we will now invite shareholders to cast your vote on the first resolution, and then once the votes are casted, then I will, announce the tally, whether the resolution is in favor of what we're asking or it's against.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, like how we know you said the financial statement and the thing, all right.
Okay, so the voting process is now open. So persons online, e-platform, I think there should be a pop-up screen that comes up, and you vote yes, for, or against, as I indicated earlier. And the shareholders, so the shareholders present, can I have a show of hands for those who are voting in favor of the resolution for us to adopt the financial statements? Mr. Foreman, can you make a note? Who's Mr. Foreman? Sit at the back there, right? Okay, and Cyril, you'll give us the tally once we are through. Yes, so it's for or against. So you are against? For the time being. So we have one against, Mr. Young. So Mr. Young, you don't have to state why you're against it, but I might prompt you to say there's no other opportunity to vote for it again. No, it can't be for the time being. It have to be for now. Is that yes or no? Okay. So I'm asking if there's any particular reason why it's against. You want to hear what the particular reason is? Because we have 2 minutes for the votes being tallied. Why did you vote against?
As I said, it's online, the thing online. I mean, they don't read. They don't read nothing. Some can't, some of it, no.
Okay. But you did get the annual report, though, with the financial statements inside of it, and the auditor's report. Or today you got it? Okay. All right. Sterling? I understand what you're saying. Just allowing those online, yes, because they have 2 minutes to vote for or against, and then at the end of that voting to confirm that they are finished voting. Yes. 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 I mean, the entire world is going digital, and that's why some of our banks are closing the branches in some of the areas, because it's all online banking now. Yes. Yes. It's all online processes, digital world. So we don't print documents in any big way nowadays. Yes, Mr. Young. Morris? Mm-hmm.
You must be a leader, not a follower. Because sometimes, you see online things, sometimes things can go wrong. You understand what I said? But you must always try to stay in your league. Don't follow other people, because what really happen, suppose things broke down with them. You have to follow the same chapter with them, you understand what I'm saying? I just explain that to you.
Mr. Young, allow me to just state the resolution, please, so we can just a pause for Chair. The resolution is carried.
Okay. So the official word is that the resolution is carried. So therefore, the financial statements as presented in the annual report have been adopted. So can I move on to the second resolution now, which is the declaration of dividends, that the interim dividends per stock units of 0.0262 US cents paid in April 22 and the 00262 cents paid in October 22 be treated on the recommendation of the directors as the final dividend for the financial year dated 30 June 2022. So that's the resolution that we're now voting on. Yes, sir. You want to ask a question before the vote? Okay, all right. So the voting is now open for us to approve the dividends that were declared. Or those present, can I have a show of hands as to who approve or for? And this is open online as well, the e-platform. So the screen will pop up and you vote for or against. So shall I ask now, in this case, anybody against? Any abstentions? You are against or you're abstaining? Against. You're against.
You see the next dividend payments, Mr. Chairman, based upon Jamaica, because you have three things on the stock exchange. We'd like to see an increase of dividends and a quarter them. Please, Mr. Chairman, as a minority share, come by with shares, so we can look at that. So please.
All right. So when Jason was presenting, this year is a record payment for dividends. Is that so, Jason?
Correct, yeah.
Is a record? I think last year we paid like 2.4, whatever the number is, 2.5, and this year we're paying 3.1.
So what you say, we have to buy more shares?
No. I mean, but if you had, let's say, 10,000 shares, and you got a portion of 2.4 last year, then this year you're getting a portion of 3.1, which is a higher number. But suffice to say, it's very a good investment. So if you want to buy some more shares, go right ahead.
If you look at the profit, the net profit, you see how going well. So buy more shares then.
Yes, and of course during this year we had an acquisition overseas that is going to add some momentum to the profit growth. Right. This year we're going to be really reeling out some much larger numbers.
All right.
And the truth is, if you get a return of 5% in terms of dividends on your investment, I mean that's and your US portfolio. Well, Jamaica is more than that, Jamaican dollar. I mean, it's a good return. All right, so we are now tallying the votes. Okay, so the people online would have another minute or so to do the voting. Just for the record, Sirlin, do you have a tally of how many people joined us online? Just for the record. 79 shareholders online. Okay, good number. Okay. We're up at 99. Huh? I stand guided by our legal counsel, but the resolution is, so you have different methodology. I mean, you can, I guess, propose and second it, or I can lay it on the table. You can lay it on the table and you vote for it. Either way, yes. So either way, so if you move a motion to propose it and then you second it and then vote on it, it's almost a similar process to us present a resolution ahead of time and lay it on the table and you vote for it. Second resolution, I'm reliably informed, has been carried. Thank you. So that's resolution number 2. We move to resolution number 3, the election of directors. For resolution number 3, Articles 149 and 150 of the Company's amended and restated Articles of Association provide that 1/3 of the board, other than the managing director if one is appointed, and directors appointed by the holder of the special share. If the number of members of that board is not 3 or multiple of 3, then the number nearest to 1/3 shall retire from office at each AGM. The directors retiring under these articles are Messrs. Damian Keith Chin and and Peter St. George, who, being eligible, offer themselves for election. So it's Peter St. George Thompson. Offer themselves for re-election. So the proposed resolution is as follows: that Mr. Damian Keith Chin, who retires by rotation in accordance with Articles 149 and 150 of the Company's amended and restated Articles of Association, and who being eligible, offers himself for election as a director of the company. And that Mr. Peter St. George Thompson, who retires by rotation in accordance with Articles 149 and 150 of the Company's Articles of Association, and who being eligible, offers himself for re-election as a director of the company. Resolution number 3 continued. That Mr. Horace Masado, retiring pursuant to Article 155 of the Company's Articles of Association, and who being eligible, offers himself for re-election as a director of the company. So the voting for those for that resolution to re-elect Damian Chin, to re-elect Mr. Peter Thompson, and to re-elect Mr. Horace Masado is now on the floor. 2 minutes for voting. Yeah, 2 minutes for voting. E-platform along with those who are present. So those who are present, those who are voting for the re-election of these 3 directors, let me see a show of hands. You want us to do them single? Yes. Okay, so those who are in favor, those are in favor of electing electing Mr. Keith-Chin. We're doing it singly. Okay, so those in favor of re-electing Damian to the board, let me see a show of hands. Okay. And while the online shareholders are voting, any against Damian being re-elected? There are none. Okay, so let me do Peter as well. Those who are in favor of Mr. Peter Thompson being re-elected to the board? Yes, in favor? No, it's virtually. Oh, Peter, sorry, I didn't notice that you came in. All right, any against? No? Those who are in favor of re-electing Mr. Horace Masado to the board. Can I see the... I see him sitting there. Those for? Anybody against? So as far as I'm concerned, the persons present here, the motion carries. So let's see what the tally is online for these 3 resolutions. Looks like we're coming up with some results here now. Okay, all right, so we've re-elected 3 directors, those 3 directors to the board. And so we move on to resolution number 4. Congratulations, yes. And the next resolution, that the amount shown in the audited financial statements of the company for the financial year ended 30 June 2022 as remuneration to the directors for their services, this remuneration is hereby approved. So we're approving the remuneration as stated in the financial statements for the directors. So 2 more minutes now to vote for that. Remuneration would have been stated as a separate item in the financial statements, and we're asking you to approve those remuneration as part of. So again, those who are on the e-platform, please vote. Those who are present, those voting for, let me see, just by show of hands. Is there anybody voting against? None against? So, Mr. Young, I guess because you didn't participate, you abstain. Okay. No, I was asking for the vote to approve the remuneration of the directors. So, for again, those who are voting for? Okay. And anybody against? The ayes have it. Looks like we're getting there now. Okay. Resolution is carried. Thank you very much, shareholders. One last final one now. The last and final. One final one now. And this is the appointment of the auditors and the authorization of their remuneration. So, the auditors are appointed from one AGM to the next. So at each AGM, we have to reappoint the auditors. So the resolution is that KPMG, Chartered Accountants, having agreed to continue in office as auditors, be and are hereby appointed auditors of the company to hold office until the next AGM, at a remuneration to be agreed by the directors of the company. So this one is to appoint the auditors, KPMG, who have expressed a willingness to continue, and for the directors of the company to fix the audit fee, their remuneration. So voting is now open for this. So on the platform, so can I have a show of hands of those who are voting for? Yes? For the appointment of KPMG and for the directors to fix their remuneration. Anybody against? Did you capture the vote there? Okay. All right. And so the online shareholders will have a minute or two to complete the process. Okay, sounds like we have some results here. The resolution is carried. Thank you very much, shareholders, for your participation. And your vote is a vote of confidence in what we're doing by passing all these resolutions. You have faith in our directors, you have faith in our auditors, and you have faith in the entire process. Yes, Mr. Young.
Yeah, we have faith in you as a company. I would thank you for inviting us at the meeting and others.
Yes.
And page 15, Mr. Orius Masado, the chairman of the SYGNUS Real Estate, is doing a good job. So,
okay, all right. You like the buildings you see us putting up? No, okay, nice. All right. You do, okay, excellent. All right. Okay, all right. So continue investing. All right. So this AGM would not be complete without us hearing from the CEO of SYGNUS Capital, which is the man at the top. And so, Beres, can I invite you now to just have some brief remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. All protocols observed. This is indeed a very lively shareholders meeting. So I like that. I like when our shareholders are participating and asking questions and engage us as the manager. But I will like to start off by saying that welcome again to all our shareholders, the directors of SYGNUS Credit Investment, the directors of SYGNUS Capital, Mr. Milton Brady, the chairman of SYGNUS Capital, and the head of our investment and risk management committee, who is online. And of course, Mr. James Connor, the CEO of Crescent Financial Corporation, joining us from Puerto Rico. Welcome. This is indeed a special annual general meeting. It represents our 5th annual general meeting. So I would like the shareholders, the team members of SYGNUS Capital and SYGNUS Group, our directors, and all our stakeholders to really take a moment to applaud us of reaching the 5-year journey. And indeed, there's a lot to applaud about. 5 years ago, and maybe I shouldn't say 5 years ago, but I should say in 2018, when we had our first AGM in the Pegasus as well, I think it was downstairs, and we share with you, our shareholders, the journey that we were going to take you on. We paint a picture for you where indeed the capital that we raised then via the IPO and the private placement would be used to pioneer a new market, pioneer a new industry. And I think that we are well on our way. We, over the last 5 years, using your investment and the faith that you have showed in SYGNUS Credit Investment, have changed the landscape of the Jamaica financial market. We now have a private credit sector in Jamaica. And the sector, of course, is led, and I know, Mr. Young, you like to talk about leadership, is led by SYGNUS Credit Investment. In the numbers, Jason spoke to the numbers. You know, the balance sheet last year, 2022 year-end, was $88 million, just about. And, of course, we have deployed well over, at the time, $140 million in private credit investments. And with the acquisition of Puerto Rico, Accrescent in Puerto Rico, we are set to even be a stronger leader in the market. We led the market in profitability. We led the market as a private credit company in dividend yield. Jason spoke to that. And just to correct you with the question you asked earlier, every year since 2018, and our chairman spoke to that, the dividend that SYGNUS Credit Investment pays out to its investor has increased year after year. And not increasing by 5 and 10%, by a larger number, double-digit numbers, to reflect the growth in profitability. And yes, sir. So, you know, so I just want to point to those milestones. These are significant in the context that a 5-year-old business that has transformed the landscape of the financial sector, yet we have not even scratched the surface of opportunity that exists in the private credit market. We are not even representing, for example, the total private credit market in Jamaica, which SYGNUS Credit Investment leads. It's not even 2% of the GDP of Jamaica, which should have been $300 million US. If we should get to, which we will, to 5%, and that's about 750 million, and if we expand that regionally and now being in Puerto Rico, we're talking about an opportunity set which is really large. So I would say all of that to say, of course, the company that you as shareholders have invested in has achieved remarkable success. You are the shareholders of a very strong and pioneering investment company. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the trust and confidence that you have placed in the SYGNUS team. I will also take a moment, of course, to acknowledge our board of directors, the board of directors of SYGNUS Credit Investment, the board of directors of SYGNUS Capital, our risk management and our investment and risk management committee, and the whole SYGNUS team who have worked very hard to be great stewards of your investment. Now, as we look into the next 5 years, Jason spoke about the strategy and how we want to deliver for shareholders. And I can confirm and communicate to shareholders that the theme and focus of SYGNUS, and by extension, SYGNUS Credit Investment, what we want to do for shareholders is to drive shareholders' value. Everything that Jason spoke about is about driving shareholders' value. So I will not go into the details that Jason went into. Jason provided a lot more clarity than me when it comes on to details. Believe me, and everybody knows that. We are going to drive shareholder values in various ways. And I just want to touch on 3 such ways so that the message that we left here with our shareholders today is clear. It's all about driving shareholders' value over the next 5 years. We're going to transform the business. It's a transformative period, as Jason said. We're going to expand the footprint of the business, which we're already doing with the acquisition in Puerto Rico. We already have a robust pipeline across the region, so we're going to be investing in wider industries, new industries, etc. We are going to bring more technology into the business to support efficiency. But at the end of the day, all these things are towards driving shareholder value. And the first thing we're going to be focused on is how do we grow the balance sheet further? Despite the headwinds that we have in the market, we have serious headwinds, and we are very cognizant of that at SYGNUS. Our interest rate going up, inflationary environment, political instability that affect us. We are very aware of those. But on the other hand, it represents great opportunities for SYGNUS Credit Investments. We have gone through COVID. COVID is a 1 in a 200 million, a 100-year event. We're not totally through it, but we have gone through a period of, a crucible period, and we have delivered during that period. So we are entering the next 5 years and the current environment with significant amount of confidence about our ability to drive growth for our shareholders. We are going to be, of course, leveraging the scale of the Puerto Rico market. James, you're online, and I know the team in Puerto Rico is working very hard. I'll take your question at the end. Puerto Rico is a $100 billion economy. And when we grow the business in Puerto Rico, you're going to have benefits trickling up to our shareholders here in Jamaica. Jason talked about diversifying our revenue stream. There's tremendous opportunity to look at different ways in order to drive the bottom line by looking at revenues outside of net interest income. And you will be seeing that reflected in our financials as we go into the next 5 years. The other thing that we are doing, and this is absolutely important, if you understand business fundamentally, businesses cannot grow without capital. All right? There's no business in the world with great ambition like what SCI has that can grow without capital, right? So we are going to be diversifying and deepening our source of capital, and hence the reason why we talk about partnership with international financiers who can provide different types of capital, most likely credit facilities that can allow us to take advantage of the opportunities that we are seeing. The other thing that we're going to do and we are quite on that journey, is to make SCI undoubtedly the best-in-class private credit business in the region. What do I mean by best-in-class? Everybody in Jamaica knows right now that we are the leader in private credit. You know, from the vocabulary that we bring to the market, to the understanding of what private credit is and what flexible capital is, we have educated the market about that. Best in class. Our earnings per share that Jason talked about. The return on equity of 10% as a private credit business. Our dividend yield, we are already one of the highest paying dividend stock in the market, that we expect to grow further. We expect that when somebody look at SCI, our KPIs, from return on equity, EPS, dividend yield, non-performing loan, we are best in class. We are ticking the box and comparable to international standard. And that's what we are going to do with your business. We are leaders. The share buyback will provide not only liquidity, as you know, this Jamaica stock market generally is illiquid. So we are working through the share buyback to enhance liquidity, but as Jess said, it will also enhance shareholder value. So we are going to make the business, and we are well on the way, as I said, best in class. The investment company, SCI, will be best in class private credit company in the region and be admired by international investors. If we do all of that, but we'll take our eye off good governance and risk management, it's a disaster. If we grow the business, we establish great KPIs, but we are not prudently and robustly monitoring risk. And if we don't embed in our business what we already have and enhance that further, good corporate governance, we are going to destroy shareholder capital and destroy value. We can't achieve the objective of driving shareholder value without having robustness in the way we assess risk or we approach risk, whether it's credit, operational risk, political risk, whatever the risks are, we have to be very robust and disciplined around how we manage it. And we have done a good job so far. That's why over the last 5 years, we really only have one write-off, which is incredible for a new business in a credit industry. But we are not satisfied. We are going to embed this even further. Just to give color to the shareholders about the psychology of the SYGNUS team, the fund manager of SCI. There are 3 principles that underpin our firm, and we call it the 3I principles: integrity, independence, and innovation. SCI and our ambition to continue driving shareholder value, like every other thing in SYGNUS, is underpinned by that. So, downside risk protection is something that is non-negotiable in the way we are going to pursue the next 5-year ambition of the firm. So, in closing, I just want to again reiterate that the last 5 years was very exciting. We can pat ourselves on the back. We did a great job, right? The next 5 years will be transformative, will be transformational for the firm. And we are not going to stray from the things that drive investor value. And they are going to involve growth, best-in-class investment vehicle, strong governance and risk management. We won't stray from those. And if we do that, 5 years from now, when we have this conversation, we all will be happy and looking for 5 more years and saying, well done, SYGNUS Credit Investment. I made a great investment in a great company. So I want to thank again all the shareholders for the confidence you place in us, and all our directors and stakeholders and colleagues for all the effort to make this a great business. Thank you.
Mic check. We speak English in Jamaica. 2 questions. Or you can explain to it, or you understand the Spanish, or the communication with them over there in the business. I have somebody over there already to can translate it. Give a little explanation.
Yes, good question. By the way, I want to say that one of the co-founders of SYGNUS and also one of the board of directors of SYGNUS Credit Investment, Dr. Ike Johnson, has been living in Puerto Rico for the last, since last year, June, right? So he has actually gone to physically be there. And I myself try to go there at least once a month. To answer your question, to answer your question directly, and I should have asked Ike to speak in Spanish for you, but anyway, the team in Puerto Rico is a great team, very experienced. Puerto Rico is actually a bilingual society. There are Spanish and, of course, English. So our team in Puerto Rico and the business that we do, financial services sector, is primarily English. So we have no communication problem. All the financial reports, etc., are all in English. That being said, our people on the ground are all bilingual. As I said, our partner Ike is there full time. He's learning Spanish. So we are also within SYGNUS over the course of the next 5 years. Many people in SYGNUS will become bilingual. We already have bilingual people in SYGNUS who work with our team there.
Most of the people in Jamaica and the SYGNUS team, they can't speak the language.
No. A few guys are on the team here in Jamaica speak the language, but all the team members in Puerto Rico speak both English and Spanish. The language of SYGNUS at the moment is English, but eventually,
You know, Mr. Chairman, as a shareholder, I'm concerned, but I said, boy, you know, I have to know them little Spanish little bit because I don't want nobody rob me. So that's why
thank you very much.
So, Mr. Young, I've also been to Puerto Rico, and I can assure you that the communication is not a problem, okay? We understand each other, man. If you don't mind it. Yes. Yeah, thank you, Barris, for those insights as to where we are going and where we want to be in 5 years' time. So 5 years' time, we're going to be big and very broad, right? So at this segment, though, I mean, I know Mr. Young have asked any question. I don't know if there are there any other questions from the persons online? No other questions from the persons online. Everybody in this audience is satisfied with what we presented? Okay, so let's... Yes, I mean, if you want to ask the CEO, Barris, any questions? Do you want to ask him any question?
No, I'm just looking at the agenda.
Yes.
Oh, it's Q&A now. It's Q&A now?
Yes, based on what the CEO has presented, or any general questions you might have.
We have one final segment for questions.
Yes. No, this is it. We're basically here at the so you can ask a question. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, afternoon to everybody, and good morning for those who are in Puerto Rico, or it's the other way around. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
So earlier you spoke about the share buyback, and it was said, that there would be more context given at the AGM. So I know that June will make 5 years since SYGNUS Credit Investment has been listed on the JSE. So what structure or way is SCI looking to do the buyback?
So we presented on that already and you missed it. So I guess you're going to have to talk to me off here. But we went through that in detail already. Just talk to me after, man, because I went through it in detail and presentation and all those stuff.
All right. No problem. All right. So I guess my next question would be, so based on what you mentioned, it's likely that you went through the things that you mentioned at the most recent investor briefing, plus, the timeline and plans for SYGNUS Credit. So I guess my question more so would be, following that write-off in one of the portfolio companies, how has SCI reevaluated the risk in its portfolio?
Good question. So the risk in the portfolio is always being evaluated just as we did from day one, which is the reason why we only have, one event of having to do a charge-off after deploying 220 million over 5 years. But to say how we have continued to improve that, obviously we have built out a more robust risk unit to additionally beef up how we monitor. We are deploying new technology as the portfolio grows so that we can monitor on a more frequent and rapid basis. And we continue to deploy best-in-class oversight in terms of when transactions are going up for approval. Our approach has been to utilize what we call sponsored portfolio companies, which typically just means that you have companies that are standalone, but then you have companies that may be part of a group, or it may be that it has shareholders with deep pockets, and they may also be leaders in their respective sub-industries, etc. So that's what we have done and continue to do. And at the end of the day, the transaction that we took the hit on is a 100-year event that blew it out, right? Because nothing was wrong with the asset prior to that. We were getting all our payments ahead of time, and the asset was a good asset. It's just that one of these things that happened. Eventually, we were always going to get hit at some point. We just don't know from where or by when, because before that we had a 100% track record for 4 years and 3 quarters. But as Beres would have said in his comments, which you might have missed of some of it, effectively we have doubled down in terms of our monitoring process and just how we structure additional downside protection for us, so that if something were to go wrong, then obviously we have multiple channels through which we get protection.
Okay, so Beres did talk about a robust risk management process that we have in-house to deal with that, okay?
Thanks.
All right, so I take a final comment. You have another comment?
Yes.
Final comment.
So what I would say, my next question basically would be on just, the current debt market in a sense. I know that one of SYGNUS Credit Investments, no payables would have matured in December. What was the new rate that you were able to refinance it at, and to what tenure as well? And secondly, with elevated rates expected to remain for some time going to 2024, how much have you increased the spread to account for this elevated interest rate environment?
So, good question. I'm not going to give away all of my strategy, though, but I can give you as much as possible. So, the debt that was rolled would have been rolled perhaps 200 or so basis points higher than what it was, than the existing rates, to adjust with what's happening in the market. So our weighted average cost of debt, if you take the assets that would not have matured, is probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of up to 200 basis points higher than where they were before. Obviously, the assets on the balance sheet would have actually been rising long before that, because we would have, from around June or thereabouts, the yield on the assets on the balance sheet would have been going up. And we presented the summary of the Q1 results here, and the average yield on the portfolio at that time was about 14%, which was September, and it would have gone up again since that, because cost of financing is adjusting, so the cost of assets on the balance sheet are also being adjusted. And where assets on the balance sheet, where clients who have assets on the balance sheet requiring certain solutions to their financing, we also get additional juice from those assets as well. So obviously you're going to have a transition period between when the entire portfolio, because the average life of the portfolio is was 1.7 years. So as the portfolio roll off and then roll on, you have assets rolling on at the new rate to maintain our spread. So we target 500 basis points as our kind of base that we want. And I think at last report we were north of that by a couple of hundred basis points. So we intend to continue doing that. On a go-forward basis, what we are doing, obviously, we are negotiating with international financing partners for upwards of 100 million US, and those lines are likely to be quite reasonable in the context that yes, rates are high now, but 12 months from now, man, rates aren't going to be nowhere near here. If rates are still near here, then everybody have then rates are going to fall even more 2 years from now, right? Because economies can't grow with rates where they are in the world, and Jamaica can't grow with rates at where it is for any long period of time. So there's going to be a cycle, and we are well prepared for that. As I said before, private credit companies thrive in these type of environments because capital then becomes scarce, and we have flexible capital.
All right, thank you. So you probably have take any other questions you have offline. Is there any other questions though? I think we're okay. So we're going to cut here and wrap up. No, what I'm saying is that you have to take any other questions you have offline with Jason. Okay?
David, you can send those questions to us and we'll respond to you.
All right. Okay, so there being no other business, I think we have substantially completed the AGM. David, can I ask you to just come down and just wrap up, give us the vote of thanks? Thank you.
Thanks, Linval. Chairman, shareholders, directors, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Oh, sorry, good afternoon, in fact. It is actually great for us to be here at the start of a new year, 2023, as we conclude yet another successful year for SYGNUS Credit Investments. It is my distinct pleasure to move the vote of thanks on behalf of the SYGNUS Group and indeed SYGNUS Credit Investments. Firstly, thank you to everyone who has taken the time to be with us this morning into the afternoon, whether in person or virtually. We have and never will take you for granted as we strive to maintain and continue to grow your faith in SYGNUS Credit Investments to deliver these results and, most importantly, to preserve your shareholder value. Thank you also for considering and passing the 5 resolutions that were on the agenda. The fact is, SYGNUS Credit Investments is your company, and we assure you of our relentless efforts to continue to produce these robust performances. To the Chairman and Board of Directors of SCI, and to the President and CEO of the SYGNUS Group, Beres Gray, thank you for your continued robust leadership in guiding the company to achieve these results. We also express our gratitude to the innovative and industrious investment banking and investment management teams led by Gregory Samuels and Jason Morris, whose continued astute leadership have guided this performance, supported, of course, by the various business units within SYGNUS. As you're all aware, it takes a collaborative effort to successfully stage events of this nature. And so we now briefly recognize those directly and indirectly involved in bringing this to reality. We extend our thanks to our General Counsel and Head of Compliance, Serlin Hudson, and her team, who spent many, many long hours in planning and organizing this AGM. Thank you also to Renee and the SYGNUS marketing team, who invested so much thoughtfulness and energy into assembling and leading this production. Let me single out their magnificent team of innovative thinkers and practitioners. The production team includes Phase 3 for the audio and video. The Appfinity for establishing the online streaming platform and facilitating voting. Our long-standing IT partners, Agile. Blueprint, and let me also add Rochelle Johnson for supporting the team and producing the decor. The Digital Global team for social media production. And of course, Jose, our videographer, for the media footage he will no doubt be sharing on multiple platforms. The team also includes Simply Dandy, thank you Sarah, for the production of the annual report written by our investment management team. I think we can safely say that once again, the report is intuitive and makes for easy reading. We also give credit to the media for the positive coverage of the annual report, as well as indeed the results that SCI have produced. We'd like to thank and express our appreciation to the management and staff of the Jamaica Breakfast Hotel for their impeccable hosting and support. To all of the other unsung heroes behind the scenes who I may not have named, we acknowledge and thank you. And of course, let me add to our auditors, KPMG, and to the Jamaica Central Securities Depository, to that cohort. Once again, thank you all for attending this annual general meeting of SYGNUS Credit Investments, and we look forward to seeing you all next year. May God bless you all, and please continue to stay safe in 2023.
Okay. Just left for me to just say thank you and for your attendance and your interest, and look forward to seeing you next year. Same time, not sure if it's the same place, but same time, right? Around it. Just by way of announcement, we encourage all members, and we talk about the digital age that we're going through, all members to submit your email addresses and your bank account. So like your dividends can be automatically be transferred to your bank account, and that we can communicate with you more freely if we have an email address for you. Because COVID-19 is still around, we are not going to be lingering for too much of a long period, just as by way of an advisory. And so, you know, after this, we probably have a short break, but we expect that persons will not gather for an extended period of time. And therefore, it's just left for me now to wish everyone, online and present, all the best for 2023, and remember to look after your health. Thank you very much.